You've heard this song at weddings, you've slowly danced to it, and you probably thought it was a love song. But here's the truth. Every breath you take isn't about love. It's about surveillance, control, obsession. Even Sting, the man who wrote it, called it sinister. Today on Backstage Melody, we uncover the twisted truth behind one of the most misunderstood hits in music history. And once you hear what was really going on, you'll never listen to it the same way again. The origins of the song. In 1982, Sting wasn't basking in fame. He was crumbling behind it. The world saw him as the magnetic frontman of the Police, churning out hits and dominating stages. But behind closed doors, his life was in shambles. His marriage to actress Frances Tomelty had just imploded. The cause? Sting had fallen deeply in love with another woman, Trudie Styler, who also happened to be Frances's best friend and next-door neighbor. The scandal didn't just stay inside their home, it spilled into headlines, tabloids, and dinner table gossip across the UK. Sting had essentially detonated his personal life, and the fallout was merciless. His reputation was bruised, his conscience wasn't much better, and he needed to get away. So he escaped to Jamaica. Not for a tropical getaway, but for isolation. He retreated to Ian Fleming's Goldeneye estate, the same place where James Bond was born, and surrounded himself with nothing but silence, ocean air, and regret. It was there, alone and emotionally wrecked, that Sting began scribbling the first lines of a song. Every breath you take, every move you make. He didn't have a full chorus. He didn't even know what the melody would sound like. All he had were those words, cold, fixated, repetitive. They weren't coming from a place of warmth. They were coming from the mind of someone spiraling. A man grappling with betrayal, guilt, and the primal need to hold on to something, or someone, that was already gone. It's important to realize this wasn't a love letter. It was a psychological diary, a moment frozen in time. Sting later reflected that the song came from a dark place, and it shows. The lyrics aren't poetic, they're obsessive. The repetition mimics the relentless thoughts that haunt a person who's lost control. It's not romance, it's surveillance. And as those words fell onto the page, Sting unknowingly created one of the most misunderstood songs in music history. Because the world would soon embrace it. But not for the reasons he wrote it. The lyrics were never meant to be romantic. Let's break down the lyrics that millions have misread for decades. Every breath you take, every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching you. On the surface, it sounds like longing, devotion, the kind of desperate love that refuses to fade. But read it again, slowly. It's not about missing someone. It's about monitoring them. Each line piles on like a surveillance report. Breath, move, bond, step. He's watching it all. It's the language of control, not care. The repetition becomes suffocating, like the narrator is pacing in circles, unable to let go, unwilling to look away. And Sting wasn't hiding that. Years later, he would say, "It sounds like a comforting love song, but it's really quite sinister. It's about the obsession with a lost lover, the jealousy and surveillance that follows." He even referred to the narrator as a character he found unsettling, a possessive paranoid figure watching someone who has moved on. So, why did we miss it? Because the melody was soothing, the guitar was hypnotic, the polished studio production wrapped the disturbing lyrics in a romantic disguise. It felt soft, even when the message was sharp. The real irony? This wasn't a misinterpretation by just a few fans. It was a global misunderstanding. Radio stations played it like a lullaby. Couples danced to it like it was, "I will always love you." And entire generations never questioned the intent behind the words. But Sting did. He once joked, "I think it's a nasty little song, really." And yet, people continue to slow dance to it, as if being watched and controlled is somehow romantic. Maybe that's the brilliance and the danger of the song. It sounds like love, but it's actually about losing it and trying to cage what can't be owned. Real-life drama behind the music. To understand the obsession behind every breath you take, you need to understand the betrayal that lit the match. At the heart of it all were three people: Sting, his wife Frances Tomelty, and Trudie Styler, Frances's best friend and their literal next-door neighbor. Frances and Trudie had shared more than just dinners and neighborhood gossip. They were part of each other's daily lives, and in that small, interconnected world, Sting detonated a secret that would destroy two relationships at once. He had fallen in love with Trudie, not over months, but years. And when the affair became public, it wasn't just a tabloid headline. It was front-page betrayal. Frances was humiliated. Trudie became a social pariah in certain circles. And Sting, he was labeled everything from a romantic to a homewrecker, depending on who you asked. The press in the UK savored every twist of the scandal. Paparazzi hounded the trio. Sting couldn't walk down the street without being asked about the women in his life. But behind all that noise was guilt. So much guilt, it bled into the lyrics he was writing in exile. You can feel it in every line of the song. This wasn't someone writing from a place of peace or pride. It was the desperate plea of a man who had blown up his life and couldn't stop looking over his shoulder. Every step you take, he meant it. There's a twisted beauty in how the song mirrors Sting's own emotional state, haunted, isolated, and fixated on what he'd lost, or what he thought he still had the right to watch. The man in the lyrics isn't noble. He's conflicted, wounded, and quietly dangerous. And that makes the song even more gripping, because it's not fiction, it's a confession, wrapped in melody, delivered through the voice of a man unraveling, band tension, and the studio war. If you thought the personal drama behind Every Breath You Take was intense, the studio sessions took that tension and turned it up to 11. By 1983, the Police were at their peak, but they were also disintegrating. Fame had taken its toll. Egos clashed, and no two members clashed harder than Sting and drummer Stuart Copeland. They weren't just arguing over creative differences, they were fighting. Explosive, profanity-laced shouting matches that derailed entire recording days. Copeland later described it as verbal Armageddon, saying the two had to be physically separated at times. Their relationship had become a power struggle. Sting wanted control, and Stuart wanted to be heard. During the recording of Every Breath You Take at AIR Studios in Montserrat, the tension was so unbearable that the band members recorded their parts in separate rooms. Sting laid down vocals in isolation. Copeland tracked drums elsewhere. They barely spoke. Even the studio engineer, Hugh Padgham, described it as one of the most difficult sessions he'd ever witnessed. Every decision was a battle, every note a negotiation. And yet, out of that chaos came perfection. Andy Summers, the band's quietest member, was caught in the middle, but he managed to deliver one of the most iconic guitar riffs in rock history. On the spot, in a single take, that hypnotic, echoing riff became the spine of the song. Eerie, cold, unrelenting, it mirrored the exact atmosphere surrounding its creation. The irony? A song about control was born out of complete creative disorder. A track about obsession was made by a band that could barely stand each other. The Police weren't created together. They were surviving with each other. And Every Breath You Take became both their masterpiece and their breaking point. Shortly after its release, the band would go on an extended hiatus, one they never truly returned from. A global hit, but a misunderstood one. When Every Breath You Take was released in May of 1983, it didn't just chart, it exploded. Within weeks, it dominated radio stations across the world. It held the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 consecutive weeks, top charts in the UK, Canada, and Australia, and won Grammy Awards for Song of the Year and Best Pop Performance. It became the Police's biggest hit, and one of the most played songs in radio history. But here's the wild part. Nobody seemed to understand what it was actually about. To the public, Every Breath You Take was a love song, a longing ballad from someone who missed their partner and would do anything to be close to them again. Couples danced to it at weddings. It made its way onto mixtapes for anniversaries and Valentine's Day. Some even used it as a first dance at their wedding reception, looking into each other's eyes while Sting's voice whispered, "I'll be watching you." That haunting phrase, meant to reflect obsession and control, became an accidental love lyric. Sting watched this all unfold with a mix of disbelief and dark amusement. He once said, "It's fascinating to me that people misinterpret the song. It's about the jealousy and surveillance of someone who's lost their lover. Yet people play it at weddings. I find that amazing." But maybe that's the genius of the song. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't declare war, it stalks silently. The beauty of the music, its smooth rhythm, elegant production, and hypnotic guitar, completely masked the psychological terror inside the lyrics. It was the perfect disguise. People thought they were hearing love, but they were really hearing possession, control, obsession dressed up in a tuxedo. And the fact that almost no one noticed, that's what makes Every Breath You Take one of the most chilling and misunderstood songs ever written. The song's legacy and unexpected twists. As the years went on, Every Breath You Take didn't fade. It evolved. Its haunting melody became immortal, not just a chart topper, but a cultural artifact. It was used in films, TV dramas, soap operas, anywhere love and loss needed a soundtrack. But the biggest twist in the song's journey came in 1997. That year, the world was mourning the sudden death of rap legend Notorious B.I.G. His close friend Sean Puff Daddy Combs was devastated, and he turned to music to express that grief. He took the melody of Every Breath You Take, sampled the guitar riff, and wrote I'll Be Missing You, a tribute to Biggie's legacy. It was raw, heartfelt, beautiful in its pain. But here's the thing. Puff Daddy didn't ask permission. He released the song without clearing the rights with Sting. At first, it was a legal gray zone. Sting could have sued. Instead, he made a surprising move. He embraced it. Not only did he approve the sample retroactively, he eventually performed the song live with Puff Daddy at the MTV Video Music Awards. A song that was once about obsession had now become a eulogy. It went from, I'll be watching you, to I'll be missing you. And the world accepted the shift. The remix spent 11 weeks at #1, won and introduced an entirely new generation to the original. But the meaning had flipped completely. What began as a song about stalking and control was now a global anthem for grief and remembrance. That transformation didn't just happen by chance. It was a reflection of how music takes on a life of its own. Once it leaves the artist's hands, the audience gives it new meaning. But underneath it all, the original DNA remained intact. Still haunting, still obsessive, still misunderstood. And Sting, he watched the entire metamorphosis unfold and profited from every note. Sting owns the song and its millions. When Every Breath You Take hit the airwaves, it was more than just a hit. It was a gold mine, but only one man held the key to the vault: Sting. Most fans don't realize how the music industry works behind the scenes. There are two types of rights: songwriting and performance. Sting was credited as the sole songwriter. That means he owns 100% of the publishing rights. Every time the song is played, on the radio, in a film, on a streaming platform, or even sampled by another artist, Sting collects the royalties. And we're not talking pocket change. According to multiple industry reports, Every Breath You Take has generated well over $100 million in publishing revenue since its release. Sting reportedly earns around $2,000 per day. From that song alone, that's over $700,000 a year, every year, for a song he wrote in a few hours while sulking in Jamaica. Now here's where things get tense. Andy Summers, the guitarist who created the song's haunting, unforgettable riff, the heartbeat of the track, wasn't credited as a co-writer. His contribution came in a single take. It gave the song its identity, but he didn't own a piece of it. Decades later, Summers would admit in interviews that the situation still stings. Pun intended. He said it was a moment of brilliance captured forever, but with no financial reward. Sting didn't even ask the band for input on the lyrics. It was his song from start to finish. Copeland played the drums. Summers built the melody. But the empire? That belonged to Sting. The resentment didn't end there. Tensions over royalties and creative credit contributed to the band's disbandment in the mid-1880s and continued to cast a shadow over their brief reunions decades later. It's a bitter irony. The song that nearly destroyed the Police also made one of its members richer than ever. While others watched the checks roll in, Sting watched the bank balance grow. Every Breath You Take isn't just a case study in obsession. It's a case study in ownership. And in the music business, owning the song means owning the story. Every Breath You Take fooled the world. We thought it was a love song. But it was really about control, not devotion, obsession, not romance, surveillance. Sting wrote it in emotional ruin, and yet it became a wedding favorite. A global hit built on heartbreak, guilt, and power. The truth? We weren't dancing to a love story. We were dancing to a warning, and that's the genius and danger of music. Thanks for watching Backstage Melody, where we uncover the hidden stories behind iconic songs. Like, subscribe and stay tuned, because the next hit you think you know might have a darker truth behind it.